All right. Good morning. It is currently 9:15 a.m. And of course, today's date is the 28th of June 2025. It is Saturday. How are you doing? Happy Saturday. Are you enjoying your weekend? How was your week? Did you have a productive week? And if you were here throughout the week, then you had a productive week, okay? God is the greatest. The United States is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. So I don't think I was here yesterday. Well, yesterday was a very interesting day. It was a beautiful day. I spent a lot of time with my daughter, the tennis court. I'm getting to like tennis. I'm enjoying tennis, okay? Because I love soccer, okay? I love soccer and boxing. But now I'm getting to enjoy tennis. All right. With that being said, today we're going to check out yesterday's press briefing from the OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. He had, or he's had, big wins throughout this whole 5 months he's been president. But yesterday was a very big win for him, but I'll let him do the talking for himself. I also wanted to say today, Saturday, marks 1 week since the United States obliterated the Iranian nuclear site. That happened last Saturday, in case you guys forgot. Okay, so I just wanted to refresh your memory. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we are about to have a good time. Also, it doesn't matter if you're liberal or conservative or progressive, independent, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. What matters is you love the United States and you are in love with the idea of the United States. So that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Okay. So relax, be kind in the comment section. Okay. Be kind. All right. Even if you don't like me, even if you don't like me, please be kind in the comment section. Okay. God is the greatest. Enjoy the show.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision, an amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts. and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases. And I think they're doing a great job. Pam, please say a few words.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts, and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies, from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have allowed district court judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power, and they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms, 5 different presidents, and it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sowers, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law. It's a great day for the Justice Department, and it's one that's been a long time coming, and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fight these injunctions and to emergency appeals, emergency stays, going back to the district court judge, asking them to change their view. And so their hard work is really paying off today, but over the past few weeks. We had a stay of an order that prevented DHS from moving aliens to a third country. We had a stay of an order that stopped the Department of Defense from implementing military readiness, the EO that President Trump signed. We had another stay of an order forcing reinstatement of fired executive branch employees, entirely within the President in Article 2, his right to do. We had a stay of, as you all know, of numerous DOJ cases. And again, every one of those stays requires a tremendous amount of work and effort by the lawyers and parties involved, and they should be doing other work. They should be doing the work that the President and this administration demands and has a right to demand, and not fighting these local judges who don't make decisions based on the law. They make decisions because they just simply don't agree with the administration's decision about a policy, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, for Pam, please.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Attorney General. So as you know, the Supreme Court did not rule on the underlying constitutionality of the President's birthright citizenship order. So what is the plan now? Are you going to try to implement the EO just in states where there isn't a legal challenge?
Yes, so birthright citizenship will be decided in October in the next session by the Supreme Court, unless it comes down in the next few minutes. I guess it could come down. I think they're still deliberating right now on some cases. As you heard, we just got transgender books, which is a huge win. But most likely, that will be decided in October in the next session. However, it indirectly impacts us because, as you correctly pointed out, if there's a birthright citizenship case in Oregon, it will only affect the plaintiff in Oregon, not the entire country. So yes, it's indirectly, but that's pending litigation, and we're waiting on that in the next term.
And how concerned are you that the Supreme Court will come back and determine that the executive order is unconstitutional?
Oh, we're very confident in the Supreme Court. But again, it's pending litigation, and that will directly be determined in October, but it indirectly impacts every case in this country, and we're thrilled with their decision today. Peter.
Madam Attorney General, thank you for being here to take our questions. A couple questions to the both of you. The EO had a 30-day grace period before it goes into effect. Is there any thought about trying to make it effective immediately within that period of time?
We're going to follow the law. We're going to make those decisions, and we're going to do what's right in the bounds of the law.
And then the DOJ didn't ask the justices to rule on the merits of the birthright citizenship ban. Just for explanation purposes, why?
Sure, because that's going to come down in October in the separate. This was huge because it's indirectly impacted today. As I said, it's case by case. Let me reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as President of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts. So yes, it indirectly impacts us. It will be a separate decision in October. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. President. A question for you, sir. Do you believe this ends the power of the lower court judges to stop your agenda? Do you see this as a full green light for your agenda going forward?
Well, you'd have to really speak to the lawyers about that, but this is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years because their decision would sometimes take years to overturn. We've overturned many of the decisions, but it would take years to do it. And we have to act quickly when it comes to illegal immigration. We have murderers, killers, we have drug dealers, we have what they've allowed to come into our country. Should never be forgotten. It should never be forgotten what they've done to our country. And we have to be able to act very quickly, and we're going to do that. Thank you.
Just as Amy Coney Barrett, sir, I know that you praised her and her opinion here in this case. She has taken some heat, though, from some of your supporters who have labeled her weak, a squishy, a rattled law professor. What is your take on that?
I don't know about that. I just have great respect for her. I always have. And her decision was brilliantly written today. From all accounts, yeah.
Transgender rules, Mr. President. What would you say to Americans who fear that this is more and more concentration of power in the White House and the executive?
Well, this really brings back the Constitution. This is what it's all about, and this is really the opposite of that. I mean, the question is fine, but it's the opposite. The Constitution has been brought back.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Illegal crossings in the border are 0 now.
0. Does everyone hear that? 0.
Yes.
Trump 2028.
Do you intend, President Trump?
Who's that guy? I like him. I like him. He's working the cameras.
With this new reality, President Trump, in the border, do you intend to engage personally with leaders from South America, not only Central America,
Sure.
in order to
I
tackle
do that anyway.
this situation in
I
a
do that
regional
anyway.
way, and if you have a perspective of meeting some
Sure.
presidents from South America, as Brazil, for example.
Well, you should, as an example, not South America, but NATO over the weekend.
Yeah.
They have great respect for our country now. They did things that nobody thought was possible. They took funding from 2% to 5%. Nobody thought they'd ever pay the 2%, and now they're paying the 5%. It's over $1 trillion more a year. Think of that, $1 trillion. Nobody thought that could happen. That's a different group of people, different countries. But we get along with a lot of countries. We are respected again. Our country, the U.S., is respected again. Was not respected 6 months ago, I can tell you.
We ask about the big beautiful bill.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, you have a deadline coming up on trade in 2 weeks. Which countries, if
On
any,
what?
on trade, on tariffs,
Yeah.
sir? Which countries, if any, are close to agreements with the administration?
Well, that's an interesting question. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal with probably 4 or 5 different countries. With the UK, it was a great deal for both. And we're in the process of making some others. But ultimately, in fact, Scott is here. And Howard Lutnick, these 2 guys have been doing an incredible job. And the people that work with them have been doing an incredible job. But, you know, we have 200 countries. You could say 200 countries plus. We can't do that. So at a certain point over the next week and a half or so, or maybe before, we're going to send out a letter. We talked to many of the countries, and we're just going to tell them what they have to pay to do business in the United States. And it's going to go very quickly. But some of the bigger countries, so India, I think we're going to reach a deal where we have the right to go in and trade. Right now it's restricted. You can't walk in there. You can't even think about it. We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen. But as of this moment, we've agreed to that, go into Indian trade. We're going to be trading in China. That's going to come a little bit down the road, but we're going to be trading in China. We have a lot of great things going, and we're getting along with countries, but some will be disappointed because they're going to have to pay tariffs. And we've taken in already hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. No inflation. The only problem we have is we have a Fed guy that doesn't understand what's happening, and it would be great if he'd lower the rate because we'd be able to borrow a lot cheaper. Yeah, go ahead, please. Why don't we keep it on this subject? This is such a big subject. You know what? Trade is so big, but this, I don't know, in a certain way, this might be bigger than trade. I think this is bigger than trade. Yes, please, go ahead.
I was wondering, though, if you could...
Go ahead.
Sir, on the transgender ruling, the Supreme Court ruling that parents with religious objections can pull their kids out of public school lessons that use LGBTQ materials. Pam brought it up. Your reaction to that ruling today, sir?
I think the ruling was a great ruling, and I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal. So it's wonderful. It's parental. And I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents. Yeah.
Mr. President, if you look at the back at the last week, it's been extraordinary in terms of the action in the Middle East. You were at The Hague.
I'm wondering hell of a week, hasn't it?
I'm wondering now if you believe that Iran. I'm wondering now, sir, if you believe that Iran has given up its long history of ambitions with nuclear weapons, or what you would like to see from them to prove that they do, and what type of meetings is your administration looking for next week with Iran?
So Iran wants to meet. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were, now has been proven. We had some fake news for a little while. The same people that covered the Hunter Biden laptop was from Russia. The same people that did 3 or 4 other Russia hoax.
But on their ambition.
No, wait, just listen. They came up with something that delayed the credit that our great pilots and these great what talent that was, and they hit it right down in the spot. 52,000 feet. Think of this dark, no moon, you couldn't see a thing, and they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target, and overwhelmingly, and it's amazing what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it, and we took out the 2 of the other sites also. In addition to that, we finished them off. That was a very evil intention. I believe that, and again, time will tell, but I don't believe that they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear, and they never got it together. And nothing was moved from the site, by the way. To do that is very dangerous. It's very, very heavy material. Those cars were most likely the cars of Masons because they were pouring concrete at the top, at the hatch, as you know, the hatch going into the nuclear site. They wanted to reinforce it, and they had some masons there pouring concrete. By the way, that concrete was obliterated. It hit exactly at the concrete. It was, I don't think it had a chance to dry, but everything's down there. It's under millions of tons of rock. Please. Yes.
Your administration has said that El Salvador is one of the safest countries in the hemisphere. So why haven't you yet canceled temporary protected status for that country? Was it part of the deal?
Well, we'll take a look. We've had a great relationship with El Salvador. They have a fantastic leader. They built a massive prison system. And I don't know exactly why, but it's a hell of a system. And we bring people there, and when they go there, they don't get out. And frankly, when they hear they have to go there, they become very nice people. They become very nice people. It's a tough system, but it's a brilliant system. And it's a system done by a very, very good leader. We'll talk about El Salvador. A lot of respect. Yeah, please.
Thank you. A question for you and then a question for the Attorney General. As you go into negotiations and talks with Iran, are you demanding not only that there would be no uranium production inside of Iran, but also that Iran would turn over all existing stockpiles of uranium?
Well, you know, we're a little early for that, but something like that, yeah, we'll do something like that. Let me say that I've been saying for 25 years, even as a civilian, you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And that's what happened. It's been obliterated. It would be years before they could ever get going. And I really think it's probably the last thing. They have to recover from a hell of a tough war.
Would you also be demanding that the IAEA have full rights to inspect in Iran?
Or somebody, yeah. Or somebody that we respect, including ourselves.
And a question for both the President and the Attorney General. Under birthright citizenship, if this is implemented, who would be tasked with actually vetting citizenship? And how, like, would this be a situation where you have nurses and doctors checking for citizenship of parents? Or
This is all pending litigation. It's going to be decided in October by the Supreme Court, and we'll discuss that after the litigation.
If you have an undocumented baby, would that baby then be an enforcement priority?
The violent criminals in our country are the priority now. Let me put it in perspective. Today marked the 2,711th arrest in our country of TDA members, just TDA. Everyone in this room agrees they are one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. And the Biden administration let them walk into our country for the last 4 years. 2,711 of them today have been arrested in our country. That is the priority of Donald Trump. That is the priority of this country, of Homeland Security, of all of our lawyers, of FBI. That's the priority. That will be discussed in October when the Supreme Court hopefully rules in our favor, and we're very confident of that. But you should all feel safer now that President Trump can deport all of these gangs, and not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers and why the people of the United States elected him.
I just might add one thing, and they used birthright citizenship, some of the worst people, some of the cartels, to get people into our country, just so you know. And again, I say, if you look at the end of the Civil War, the 1800s, it was a very turbulent time. If you take the end day, was it 1869 or whatever, but you take that exact day, that's when the case was filed. And the case ended shortly thereafter. This has to do with the babies of slaves, very, very obviously. And I think we're going to win. People I don't think they went about discussing it right. I came along and we looked and we said, wait a minute, this is wrong. We've been looking at birthright citizenship wrong for years, but they've used it. The cartels have used birthright citizenship to get very bad people in, and what Pam's doing and what Todd and everybody else, what they're doing at DOJ and all over, FBI, ICE, Border Patrol, these are incredible people. They're trying to keep our country safe, and they don't want to have people come in. This is just another way that they get illegal immigrants into our country, and in some cases, very, very bad ones. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your tax bill, if I could for a moment, senators are racing to rewrite parts of it right now after the Senate parliamentarian ruled that sections of it were outside of the process that they're using to get this through. Do you think that senators should respect the decisions of the parliamentarian? And what have you personally done in the last 48 hours to try and get Republican senators who are against the bill to a yes?
Well, look, it's a great bill. It's a massive tax cut. If it's not approved, your taxes will go up by 68%. Think of that, 68, a record, the highest in the history. The Democrats won't approve it only because politically it's so good for the Republicans. The Democrats aren't approving it. But think of what they're not approving. They're not approving border security. We've done a great job at the border, but we have to add some wall. We have to do various things. We have no money for that. We have no money for the border. We have no money for so many things. But if the Democrats, it'd be interesting to see if we get any Democrat votes. We should. If I were a Democrat, I would absolutely, maybe Fetterman, because he seems to be the most sensible one lately. If I were a Democrat, I would vote for this bill all day long because it's tax cuts and so many other things that are common sense. They're basic things. I think they're doing fine. The parliamentarian's been a little difficult. And I would say that I disagree with the parliamentarian on some things, and on other ways she's been fine. But we'll have to see. It's a big issue. I will tell you this: if that bill doesn't pass, the country will get a 68% tax increase. So think of this: you're a Democrat and you vote against it. That means you're voting in favor, because essentially you're voting in favor of the largest tax hike in the history of our country. And you can't do that. In addition, we're cutting costs by $1.7 trillion, and it won't affect anybody. It's just fraud, waste, and abuse.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars from China and a lot of other countries. We took in, I had a call from somebody in the House and a high official. Sir, we have a problem. We don't know what to do. The books are a mess. I said, what do you mean by the books? The books, the money coming in. It's so terrible. I figured, oh boy, what's this? I don't like this question. I said, so what seems, there's so much money coming in and there must be some kind of an accounting mistake because we have hundreds of billions of dollars more money than we thought. I said, do me a favor, go check call me back. You have to call me back. Check the tariff column. He calls me back 2 hours later, says, you're right. We took in $88 billion in tariffs. They have so much money coming in. But more important than the money coming in, we have companies coming in, factories coming in, auto plants being built. AI is being built here instead of being built all over Europe and Asia. We have all of it. We have over $15 trillion, just about, Scott. I think we're right about that number. We went to Saudi Arabia. We went to Qatar, we went to UAE, very smart people, very smart leaders, great leaders, and we took in $5.1 trillion just there without the tariffs. I mean, they also liked a thing called November 5th, November 6th, and November 7th. That was a very good little period of time. It's called the presidential election. You know, you used to have one-day election, now you have it go over it, but even if you just took that little period, because it was pretty obvious it was going to be a landslide, and they like that, but they love the tariffs. I had Texas Instruments come in the other day, big company, and he said, we're putting in $60 billion into new plants and new equipment, new everything. Sir, you're going to keep the tariffs, aren't you? Because if I ever took the tariffs off, and we are going to absolutely keep it. And they're worried that somebody that, like this communist from New York, someday gets elected. I can't believe that's happening. That's a terrible thing for our country, by the way. He's a communist. We're going to go to a communistic state. That's so bad for New York. But the rest of the country is revolting against it. But if somebody got elected, they're afraid that if this was taken off, well, we're going to guarantee it's never going to be taken off. And again, we're taking in think of this, hundreds of billions of dollars. And they were all confused because they've never seen this before. You know, it's always the other way. We don't have enough money. So much money is coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen. But most importantly, we have factories being built, car plants being built, companies moving to our country like never before. If you look at 15 trillion, and that's only in a few months, you know, I haven't been here that long. Presidents, like the last one, was a disaster. He's the worst president in the history of our country, by the way. What he did on our border can never, ever be forgotten. To me, that's the worst of all the things. And he's done some terrible things, grossly incompetent. Nobody knew it was him, because I don't think it was him. I think it was whoever was controlling the auto pen. But our country is doing great. And those leaders and other leaders, I just left, as you know, a large group of the most highly respected people. And that includes big countries. When you look at Germany and France and Spain, although Spain didn't come through, but they will. By the way, guaranteed they will. That was the only country that sort of tried to hold back on putting up the money. But just so you know, they said, it's unbelievable what's happened to the USA. You were a dead country. We didn't respect the country, the leader. You were dead as a doornail. One said to me, you went from being a dead country, you are right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. The whole world is talking about the USA, and everybody wants a part of it, and they're pouring into our country, and you're going to see those numbers. Thank you for that question. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question about trade. Secretary Bessent has said that he hopes tariff deals with major partners will be done by Labor Day. So if some deals are not done by your July 9th deadline, will some countries' tariffs go back up, or will they stay where they are now?
Well, there's some countries that are used to ripping us off, to be honest with you. And I don't want to name them, but you sort of can name them. And they're so used to just, you know, taking it billions and billions of, look, we had a trade deficit of more than $1 trillion. Think of a trillion, a trade deficit. That's because nobody cared. We cared a lot when, you know, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff. We had the greatest economy in history up until now. I think we're going to blow it away. But during my time, and especially prior to COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to blow it away now based on the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But some countries are very angry because they've been ripping us off for years. They've been making billions and billions of dollars. There was nobody to negotiate with. They could do whatever they want. They charged us tariffs, by the way, at numbers that we've never seen before. And we ended up losing much more than $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year on trade. And now they're being met with a force that's far greater than them, and they don't like it. So they're upset because instead of making, $5 billion, they're going to break even. Or they'll make a little bit. I want to be nice. They'll make a little bit. Or we'll make a little bit. It's a big difference. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. Red dress.
On the 2020 election, is there any more information on the special prosecutor? So many Americans still have questions about the 2020 election. And speaking of rogue judges, would you consider appointing somebody at DOJ maybe to investigate the judges that allowed for the political persecution of you, your family, and your supporters during the Biden administration?
I love you. Who are you?
I'm Kara from Lindell TV.
Well, it's just a very nice question. And it's not a setup. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate that question. All I can say is we're not here for that. I hope so. I hope they're doing a thing because that election was rigged and stolen, and we can't allow that to happen. A lot of people tell me, sir, you just won the greatest election in the history of our country. You won at numbers that won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything. Sir, go on with your life. And many people that say that, good people, friends of mine, then you have people that say that same thing, go on with your life, but you have to find out what happened because you can't let that happen again. Look at what this lunatic did. Look at what he did. He opened our borders to people that were murderers, 11,888 to be exact, murderers. And we've captured many of those murderers, and we're bringing them back, or some of them are so dangerous that we don't even want to bring them back. We're afraid they're going to try and come back in. But he allowed people to come into this country, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, that's a mental institution on steroids, people from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers, people, jails, being emptied out into our country. Venezuela emptied out almost its entire prison population into our country. But I don't want to blame them. Many countries have done that. The Congo, we have a great press conference coming up later, and it's the Congo and Rwanda. They were fighting for years, and it was machetes, it was vicious, it was as vicious, people's heads being chopped off. And I have a man who's very good in that part of the world, very smart, and put them together. And we're signing a peace treaty today. First time in many years they're going to have peace. And it's a big deal. We talk about Russia, and we're working that one. President Putin called up, and he said, I'd love to help you with Iran. I said, do me a favor. I'll handle Iran. Help me with Russia. We got to get that one settled. And I think something's going to happen there. But we did some great work. India and Pakistan. That was going to be maybe nuclear. We did that. We did a lot of work. I don't know if there's ever been a president that's done much more. Serbia, Kosovo was going to go at it. Going to be a big war. I said, you go at it. There's no trade with the United States. They said, well, maybe we won't go at it. That's what happened with India and Pakistan. I was negotiating with both of them, and I said to Scott, I said to Howard, cancel all deals with India and Pakistan. They're not trading with us because they're in a war. They called back, what do we do? I said, look, you want to have trade with the United States, it's great. But you want to go and start using nuclear weapons on each other? We're not going to allow that. And they both agreed. Both have great leaders. They both agreed not to do it. So we did a lot, but I appreciate that question.
Sir, on peace deals,
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Orange.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. I was just speaking with Senator Ron Johnson on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and he says he really wants to get to yes for you and get this accomplished.
He does. He's a good man.
But he also said that he needs more time, and he is not certain that the July 4th deadline is possible.
Well, then he's not such a good man.
Because there's too much work to do.
He's a good man. Ron Johnson's doing a good job. He's very committed. Every Republican senator is committed. And, you know, you could have a couple of grandstanders, in all fairness. You could have somebody else. And it's very dangerous because our country would go from being the most successful country in the world to who knows what happens with a 68%, think of it, 68% tax increase. That was given by the Democrats because they like high taxes. I don't know what happened. You know, all my life, I'd grow up and I'd watch politicians talking. I'd say, oh, that's fun. And they were always saying, we will cut your taxes. We will cut your tax. I never heard it. They say, we will raise your taxes. And they elect people like this guy in New York that maybe has a chance. I find it hard to believe, but he maybe has a chance. They want to raise your taxes. So they want to see a 68% tax increase. That's more money than anybody could afford. You'd go into a depression if that ever happened. So I think there's a lot of pressure to get that approved.
President Trump, how important is the July 4th deadline to you? If
It's important. It's not the end all. It can go longer, but we'd like to get it done by that time, if possible. And look, we have a lot of very committed people, and they feel very strongly about a subjects that you're not even thinking about that are important to Republicans. The problem we have is that it's a great bill. It's a popular bill, but we'll get no Democrats only because they don't want to vote for Trump. If that bill was their bill, oh, they would be so happy. It's so great for our military. It's great for everything. And they would normally vote, but because their hatred of Trump, they have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before. And instead of voting for a tax cut, they're voting for a tax increase of 68%. They're voting to destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, and destroy Medicaid. And we're voting to make them perfect and to make them better, make them stronger and better. They're going to destroy Medicaid, and they're going to destroy Medicare, and Social Security will follow. If you vote for the Democrats, you're dead on those three things.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a related subject, many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures. And these votes are in some cases needed to pass. Are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next few years if that helps get these crypto bills passed in the next few months?
Well, it's a very funny thing, crypto. So I became a fan of crypto, and to me it's an industry. I view it as an industry, and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China. China would love to. And we've dominated that industry. It's a big industry, by the way. In fact, when the stock market went down recently, crypto and Bitcoin and all of that went down much less than anybody else as a group. And we've created a very powerful industry, and that's much more important than anything that we invest in. We invest in it, but really that was an industry that wasn't doing particularly well. I got involved with it a couple of years ago, and before the second term. I got involved before I decided to run. I only decided to run because I saw what was happening, and Biden was incompetent, and the administration was crooked and incompetent. And I was in Bitcoin then, not knowing if I was going to do it a third time. So it's become amazing. I mean, it's the jobs that it produces. And I notice more and more you pay in Bitcoin. I mean, people are saying it takes a lot of pressure off the dollar. And it's a great thing for our country. So I don't care about investing. You know, I have I have kids, and they invest in different things. They do believe in it. But I'm president, and what I did do there is build an industry that's very important. And, you know, if we didn't have it, China would. Okay.
Sir, Mr. President,
go ahead. With the glasses, gentlemen, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, are you going to cut funds in the sanctuary states, like, for instance, California, that keep supporting illegal immigration, and then these people work under
Yeah, we're giving them a hard time.
And also, a foreign policy question.
I mean, they don't have a governor in California. They have a man that wants to give away everything to people that nobody's seen before. If we didn't go into Los Angeles with the military, which did a fantastic job, but if we didn't go into Los Angeles bringing in the National Guard, I would have brought the military if it was necessary, because you have to. We have the right to. That was another thing upheld by the Supreme Court. But if we didn't go in with the National Guard and be strong and tough, you wouldn't maybe have Los Angeles. It would be like the rest of California, the rest of Los Angeles. They lost 25,000 houses in a fire. They should have lost none. You know, I sent the water down. I had to break into their water supply because they just refused to do it. They're crazy. There's something wrong with them. They have plenty of water. They don't have droughts or anything. They have plenty. We let it come down from the Pacific Northwest. They routed all the water out into the Pacific Ocean for environmental reasons, okay? And now you have 25,000 houses, none of which would have burned down if you had the water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water for the fire pumps. They didn't have water in the sprinkler systems that people put in. So the answer is we're going to work with governors. We're going to work with radical left Democrats and Democrats, and we're going to make it good for everybody. We'll have to stop the crime in those. In the case of the cities, I think I can say just about all cities with heavy crime are run by Democrats. Go ahead.
11 lies.
Yeah, with the glasses.
I'm with Iran.
Go ahead, yes.
International.
Yeah, go, no, the man behind you, yeah, please.
President Trump, Anthony Mashhad from Anthony, Lebanon. I want to ask you regarding the threats posed by Iran's allies and proxies operating in the U.S. They were threatening your life. So what do you say about that? And regarding the Lebanon, because Hezbollah is as well part of Iran's allies, is there any time frame in Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Yeah, Lebanon is a great place with brilliant people. You know, it was known for the professors and doctors and had an incredible history. And hopefully we can bring it back again. I just appointed a friend of mine who's Lebanese, and I didn't know he was Lebanese. I've known him for 20 years, very, very successful man. And I just appointed him. And I said, why would you want that? He said, because I was born there, I was raised there, I love it. I love it so much. I said, you know, it's very dangerous going to Lebanon as ambassador. And he said, that's what they say, but I don't care about danger. I mean, this is a guy that is just a very big business guy. He wants to give up his whole life to go to Lebanon because he believes in it so much. We're with Lebanon all the way. We'll try and straighten it out.
Your life as well. So what action?
Threaten my life? Yeah, they have threatened. I get that throbbing feeling every once in a while. Get that throbbing feeling, but you know what? That's okay. This is a dangerous business. What I do is a dangerous business. You know, I tell the story of the car companies and different people in different professions you have. Race car drivers, as an example. 1/10 of 1% die. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. That's not a lot, but it's people die. When you're president, it's about 5%. If somebody would have told me that, maybe I wouldn't have run. Okay? This is a very dangerous profession. Yeah, please. By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? Or not? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it. Go ahead.
On Iran.
You tell me when it gets boring. Okay?
If Iran.
Are you from Iran?
No, I'm not from Iran. I'm from the UK. But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
And have you had any conversations?
Turned out to be unbelievable. But, you know, our incredible flyers and I call them the shots, these guys are unbelievable. Think, from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that. And just bomb after bomb going deeper, deeper, blowing up. Incredible, incredible thing. I don't know if you heard the general. He was very impressive. Raisin Cain. You know, he's the one that beat ISIS for me. And he did it in a matter of weeks. And I was told it was going to take 4 or 5 years. And when I got this job, I always said, if I get this job, I'm going to put that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Dan Cain, and he, when I heard his name was Raisin, his nickname is Raisin Cain. I said, you got to be kidding. So I liked him right from the beginning. But he knocked out ISIS in a time that nobody ever thought possible. And when this attack was completed and so successful, I said, now I know how you knocked out ISIS so quickly. But we have the best people, we have the best equipment in the world. You know, I rebuilt the military during my 4 years, during my other term. We have the best equipment in the world. The problem is we gave away, you know, a lot of it, but small relatively speaking. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan. Shouldn't have happened. That just shows how incompetent they were. They gave all that equipment away, billions and billions of dollars worth. Shouldn't have happened, but that was small compared to what we have. Now we have a great military with great people. Okay. Yeah, please.
Mr.
President, congratulations. A couple of very different questions. One is Rwanda, 1994. As you grew up in New York, we all knew how horrific those attacks were. Congratulations on that treaty. There are talks that perhaps...
That's going to take place today at 3 o'clock in the Oval Office. We're going to have a signing with Rwanda and the Congo. So I'm a little out of my league in that one because I didn't know too much about it. I knew one thing. They were going at it for many years and with machetes. It is one of the worst wars that anyone's ever seen. And I just happened to have somebody that was able to get it settled. I mean, just a brilliant person who is very comfortable in that part of the world. It's a very dangerous part of the world. I said, are you uncomfortable there? People are being killed. School children are being raided and killed. And I don't even want to say how, but as viciously as I've ever heard. Are you uncomfortable? No, that's the part of the world that I know. Very comfortable. Was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to, look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House, and they're so honored. And so we're going to give them a great big reception, but that's after many years of fighting. It's a great thing. That's at 3 o'clock, I believe.
Sir, are you concerned at all about secret nuclear sites in Iran? You talked about maybe just
secret nuclear sites?
Yes, that there might be some of
Not
those
really. Can I tell you? They're exhausted. And Israel's exhausted too. And I dealt with both of them. And they both wanted it settled, both of them. And we did a great job, but they're exhausted. The last thing they're thinking about right now is nuclear. You know what they're thinking of? They're thinking about tomorrow, trying to live. It's such a mess. It's such a mess. The place was bombed to hell. And no, I'm not worried about it at all. And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in this country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. And Israel was beat up too. They were both beat up. And it was a great time to end it. It was quick. They got the hate out. There was a lot of hate, a lot of hate. It would be great if they didn't have that hate. But the last thing they're thinking about is nuclear weapons right now. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Tao with NTD Research Media with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here,
It's a good group.
in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we haven't
Probably.
had this in, for the past
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other
to
than
talk to
Caroline's done a great job.
Yes, sure.
You're referring to the past administration,
Yes,
not
yes.
to Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are most eager to move forward
Well, I
with
think
now?
taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous, this is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like, it's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of, think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected. And we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency. And it only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't take power. It takes bad power, sick power, and unfair power. And it's really going to be, this is a very monumental decision. Yeah, please.
Yes, President, thank you very much. On July 9th, is that July 9th date set for tariffs to snap
No.
back? Or could there be a...
We can do whatever we want. We could extend it. We could make it shorter. I'd like to make it shorter. I'd like to just send letters out to everybody. Congratulations, you're paying 25%. He doesn't want. He's a much nicer person than I am. Go ahead. You finish it up.
Who are you considering for the Federal Reserve then? And are you speeding up that process? I see Secretary...
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. I mean, I have a list of things. We're like 38 on the list. We pay, Cameroon and different places are paying the same as us. Because, you know, you have somebody sets a rate at 4% or 4.5%. It's hard to go out and say we should be paying 1% when you have your so-called experts doing that. And the sad part is, you know, as per the question that you asked about tariffs, we've had the tariffs and we have less inflation than we had before. What we have is a hell of a lot more money, a hell of a lot more income, and we shouldn't be paying a rate like that. In other words, when we pay a rate, I'll tell you, each point is the equivalent of $300 billion. So if we had it down 3 points, because I think we should be at 1, you have Switzerland is at 0.25. In other words, 25% of 1%. And they're the number 1 right now. But we should be the number 1. And soon you're going to have, I think, you're going to have where the people will pay will pay, like we had a few years ago, where you put up money, you loan money, and I mean, you actually, instead of paying, you get paid. I love that. I don't know if it's any good, but I love it, where you put up money and you get paid. But we should be in a category, so we should be at the top of the list, not toward the bottom of the list. But we have a man who's not a smart man, and he probably has Trump derangement syndrome. And he's just not a smart person. What he's doing, though, he's hurting us for years to come. Because if we borrow money at 2 points higher than we should be paying, that's $600 billion. Wouldn't you say those numbers are about right, Scott? So it's 2 points would be about 600, actually more than that, but about $600 billion, all because the guy doesn't want to lower the rates. He's doing the service, a very and then he goes up and talks about, I'd like to see costs come down. You know, he gets up and he does his little thing for 5 minutes, and he goes out and he goes back to the beach. He goes, I'd like to see costs come down. Well, he could lower the interest cost by $900 billion a year. All he has to do is lower rates. And everybody's saying, I was watching some of the business shows today, and they're saying, you know, Trump's right. He should really be cutting. The country's doing well. We have no inflation. Now, despite him, we're doing great. But if we got the rates down, we would be a rocket ship. So I think that'll be it. And I just want to thank everybody. This is a really big day. We've had a big week. You know, we've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous. Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And, you know, I want to give credit to a lot of people, most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them. Incredible. The general and all of his generals. Pete Hegseth was great. They all. And now I want to compliment Pam. A lot of genius went into this. You know, people, if you don't say it exactly right, if the Supreme Court doesn't get it because it's incorrectly spoken about, and that happens. A lot of cases are lost because they don't say the right words. But I want to correct. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. I may change my mind about that. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll have call and say I was only kidding. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. This was a tremendous win, and we've had tremendous wins, but this was a tremendous win today. So I just want to congratulate you and Todd and your whole staff. Very brilliant people, and we can't forget John Sauer.
That's right.
Who is with. There's a medical emergency within his family, so he's taking care of that, and we said absolutely. So I just want to thank everybody very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Greatness. This man settled a 30-year war between Rwanda and Congo. I mean, what else do you want? What else do you want? Doesn't this tells you? What does this tell you? This man is a man of peace. He wants peace around the world, and he's doing it by any means necessary. Now, you can hate, you can say stuff about him and call him whatever, but he keeps getting the job done, and that's what matters. All right? That is what matters. That's why he won the election. That's why everybody respects him worldwide. Europe was calling him daddy during the NATO summit. I mean, what more do y'all want, man? Look, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, doesn't matter. What matters is you love the United States. You believe the United States is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And this man right here, the greatest president. Here we go.
I won't mention that it's Kosovo, but it's Kosovo. But they were going to have a big time war and we'd stop. Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to ask Caroline, who's become very famous, big star, and she has a person who's a colleague of hers, a friend of hers, and that she has a lot of respect for, who comes from the area and knows exactly what's happening. Caroline, could I ask you to say a few words?
Yes, sir. Here we have Haryana, who is from the continent of Africa. She's been a reporter here in the United States for many years, and she has a story to share with the press, with the media, and with these two fantastic leaders who have joined you today. So, Haryana, please.
Why don't you come up here and talk so they can see?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
It's a great honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House and I cover for the entire continent. So I just arrived from Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I witnessed myself. I spoke with the people on the street. I spoke with youth. They know your name. They know that our president named President Trump is working hard to finally bring peace to the country. I saw hope. They have hope now for a better day in Congo. They see what you're doing as a future, better future for Congo. And I had an opportunity to sit down with President Felix Tshisekedi for an interview because I want to understand his mind, what he's thinking, his feeling about everything that your administration is doing. And he told me firsthand that for many years, many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I covered President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country. They never gave me any answer. And he told me, President Tshisekedi, that you have no idea, he's very thankful for what you're doing, for what your administration is doing. Not only him, the entire Congolese people, they see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you in the future.
That's so nice, boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I'll say it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. You covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years.
Wow.
I covered even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that. Appreciate it.
And I have one more question,
Yes.
Mr. President. Since we know in July or in the future, both President of Rwanda and the Congo will be coming to the United States. In Africa, President João Lourenço, the president of Angola, he is also the leader of African Union.
Good.
He
Yes, I know.
worked very hard to bring peace, but unfortunately...
Let's get him here.
Yes, that's
Okay?
right.
Would you invite him for me?
Of course.
Okay? No, we'll have. I know that he works very hard, and he's the head of essentially the union. So the union all over Africa, not the kind of union that we have. This is the union all over Africa, and I'd love to have him. So you'll let him know.
Of course,
Okay?
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good.
Mr.
Now you go back to where you belong, right? That's great. That was a great job. It's real knowledge and real heart, too. Congratulations. Okay. So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace and this is a long time waiting, the signing of a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. The conflict has continued, and it's been going on for many, many years. It's been going from, I guess they say 30 years, the Great Lakes region of Africa for a long time, and maybe even a time before that. How is the Great Lakes region? Must be beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful region, but they had a lot of war, right? A lot of fighting, a lot of death. It's displaced countless people and claimed the lives of thousands and thousands. But today, the violence and destruction comes to an end, and the entire region begins a new chapter of hope and opportunity, harmony, prosperity, and peace. That's been a long time waiting. I said, how long has the war been going? And a friend of mine who was very much involved said 30 years, and at least 6 million people were killed during that period of time. It's incredible. And somebody said that was actually, it's the biggest war on the planet since World War II. So it's a shame, but we're going to bring it to an end. I want to express my gratitude and congratulations to the representatives of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda, who signed this pivotal agreement a short time ago. They just signed right in front. And let me also thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has worked very hard on this subject, and we've worked on it together, for his outstanding leadership, as well as Senior Advisor for African and Africa Affairs, Mossad Boulos, who's, as you know, spends a lot of his time in Africa, and he's very comfortable there. I said, were you at all uncomfortable with all of the turmoil and all of the killing? And he said, no, I wasn't uncomfortable, and that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be able to get. So, Mossad, I want to thank you very much for the job you've done. Amazing guy, actually. I also want to thank African Union, Qatar, Togo, for working closely with the United States. And I know Qatar was really working hard. And African Union, we just spoke about that. And I look forward to having them representatives here when we do the official meeting, and that'll be sometime in July. And we look forward to it. And you better be here covering it, okay? You better, we're not going to stand anybody else covering it but you. But this is a tremendous breakthrough. In a few short months, we've now achieved peace between India and Pakistan, Israel and Iran, and the DRC and Rwanda, and a couple of others also. Serbia, you know, was they were getting ready to go to war with a group I won't even mention because it didn't happen. We were able to stop it. But I have a friend in Serbia, and they said we're going to go to war again. And I won't mention that it's Kosovo, but it's Kosovo. But they were going to have a big time war, and we stopped it. We stopped it because of trade. They want to trade with the United States. I said we don't trade with people that go to war. And we said that also with, if you take a look at Pakistan and India, it was great. They have two great leaders, and they were able to stop. They were in the midst of a big fight, I guess everybody saw, and it was going to get very bad. And they are nuclear nations, very powerful nuclear nations. In the months and years ahead, my administration will continue to work closely with all of the parties in this deal and ensure the agreements are fully taken care of, and you're going to do what's in the agreement. We'll say you better do what's in that agreement, right? Because if somebody fails to do that, bad things happen. But I have a feeling that after 30 years, I think after 30 years you're all set. I think both of you have said that's enough, right? That's enough. Yeah. That's enough. You've seen it all. So this is a wonderful day. It's a great day. We've had some tremendous success. It's been a great week between just coming back from a very successful trip, NATO's really pulled together. They have. They're going to spend over $1 trillion a year. Nobody expected a thing like that to happen. And we had the war, as you know. We call it the 12-day war. It was exactly a 12-day war, and we ended up with no nuclear weapons. That's what we wanted. And they were just absolutely blown to pieces. Those 3 sites. And there's no nuclear weapons, and hopefully there can be a lot of healing, and the healing is starting. And it's been really pretty amazing week, and this is one that I really look forward to. This was set up a few weeks ago, and it was something that I really look forward to. If we can do this, and we do that because we have a certain competence that's good, we're able to get people to be peaceful. I think we can do war better than anybody, but we don't want to. And we have the greatest military in the world. They showed that in Iran. Those pilots, they flew for 36 hours. And think of that, and they hit their target. The size of this desk, half the size of this desk, from about 52,000 feet in the dark of night with no moon, zero moon. They wanted it that way. Can you believe it? And they hit, every missile hit exactly half the size of this beautiful Resolute desk. We don't want to talk about it when it comes to rockets hitting it, but half the size of this, and they hit dead center from tremendous heights, going at tremendous speeds. It's amazing. Nobody could do a thing like that. Nobody has that weaponry, and nobody could do a thing like that. So we had a very busy and successful week. And in addition to that, our economy is doing great, setting records with the economy, and a lot of other good things happening. But this is about Congo and Rwanda. And I'd like to ask, if I might, would you say a few words before we introduce our guests, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
So, under your leadership, Mr. President, and the full support of Secretary Rubio and the entire team at the State Department, we engaged with the two parties in early April. And within 3 weeks, they signed the Declaration of Principles. And now, within about 2 months from that, we have signed today the final, this is actually the final peace agreement. You know, many people were wondering if this is preliminary. No, this is the actual final peace agreement that they've signed today. You've also expressed interest in inviting the heads of states to the White House for a signing ceremony. So there will be some other additional agreements that will be signed. In addition to this, which will become known as the Washington Accord with regards to the Great Lakes region.
That's great.
There are some economic...
Why not the Trump Accord? I'm only kidding. It'll be headlines. No, I think that's a great name, Washington Accord. Beautiful.
And there's an economic aspect as well that is extremely important for both countries. They have also worked, last week we finalized the regional economic integration framework, which both countries will be signing at the White House here during that ceremony. And
that's going to be a great ceremony.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to make that a great ceremony and bring other people that were involved, some other people. Besides the gentleman we talked about, who we know has worked so hard. If you think there are other people that are deserving, let us know. Okay?
Sure. And there will be some bilateral agreements. We're negotiating a minerals deal with the DRC for critical minerals. Many American companies have shown interest in investing in the DRC, and these we're talking about long-term investments. Same thing with Rwanda. Many American companies have shown interest, and not only in mining, but also in the midstream and downstream, which will be the processing of minerals. We're also working and supporting the Lobito corridor, which will help building the infrastructure. Just 2 days ago, the United States signed, and supported a project of $1.5 billion for electric transmission from Angola to the DRC. And there are many other projects of that nature lined up. So we will be, under your leadership, Mr. President, will be working with the two countries very closely and with the support of Qatar to make sure that this agreement is implemented.
And a lot of our companies are in both of these countries now, especially since we've been getting along so well. It's probably the way we were brought together. And we have a lot of our big companies are there, between rare earth and all of the other things that they do in Africa, which is very greatly expanding, especially in these two countries. You have earth, they consider it to be about the best in the world, actually, I've heard. So we're doing a lot of different things, and it's all going to bring everybody together. That's how this all began, I guess. But the big thing is, the big thing for me is really only one thing, and that's getting a peace treaty with two countries that have been fighting for 30 years. And I want to thank you all. Will, if you could,
Yes, sir.
You could bring the letters over.
Of course, sir. So in front of you, as you said, sir, these are the actual agreements that were signed respectively by the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda earlier today, witnessed by Secretary Rubio. We've also prepared for you 2 letters. This is to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, expressing your appreciation and congratulations for everything that's happened already, and of course inviting him to Washington for, as Dr. Bula said, what we hope will be the Washington Accords, finally setting the terms for peace and prosperity in this region, hopefully for a very long time.
That's great. That's beautiful. Very important. We're going to put a picture in there, right? As soon as this is over, they're going to put, we have a fast-moving photographer, Dan, who's going to put a nice picture of us here. Okay. That's for you.
And this is a letter to President Chikisade of the Democratic Republic of Congo, again congratulating him on settling this long-running war and inviting him to Washington, D.C. for the final conclusion of the agreement, hopefully soon.
That's great. Nice, right? That's great. You take that pen, and you take that pen.
Thank you very much.
So I'd like to ask JD to say a few words, our great Vice President, and then Marco, and go ahead.
Great. Well, first, let me welcome the foreign ministers of Rwanda and Congo. It's great to have you in the Oval Office. And second, let me say congratulations to the President, Secretary Rubio, and the entire team. I think for the people of these 2 countries, they should know that the United States is committed to the pathway of peace. But to my fellow Americans, this is really a celebratory moment. This is a big moment for our country because under the President's leadership, we've taken what was 30 years of killing and war, the worst war in terms of death count since World War II, and now we're on a pathway to peace. And so if I think about what I know about these 2 countries, for 30 years, pretty much the entire time that I can remember these 2 countries being in the news, much of the story has been about them fighting one another, about them killing one another. And now we can look forward to a future where my children will look at this moment as the beginning of a new story, a story of prosperity and of peace. So thanks to the President, congratulations to the entire team, and to my fellow Americans. We should all be really proud because it's amazing what active presidential leadership can accomplish when it's geared towards peace and prosperity, and that's what we have in the Oval Office right now. So great job, sir.
Thank you very much, JD and Marco, and then we're going to ask the 2 principals to speak.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, first of all, thank you. When I first came on this job a few months ago, you made it very clear that one of the priority of this administration under your leadership is going to be the pursuit of peace. And from day one, whether it's been in Ukraine and Russia, whether it's been Pakistan, India, whether it's been Iran and Israel, and in the continent of Africa, your priority's been on peace. And today we see this come to fruition. It's sad. Wars get a lot more attention than peace. But peace is harder than war, a lot harder. And I want to congratulate both of the leaders here and their respective presidents for choosing the harder path, which is often peace, than the easier path, which sometimes is war, as costly and as bloody as it may be. And I echo the Vice President's statements, and that is that Americans should be very proud that the #1 voice for peace in the world today is our president, your president. And so thank you, President Trump. And I want to, again, recognize Dr. Boulos and the work he's put into this from day one. He's really put a lot of time and effort, and as our friends from the respective countries can share with us. And last point, I do want to thank, you've done this already, but the African Union, Togo, and Qatar, who have been extraordinary partners and whose help we're going to need to continue to receive in order to bring all this to fruition. So congratulations to both of you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job you've done. Do you want to start? Either way. Would you like to start?
Ladies first, maybe.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for having us here. I think I can summarize my contribution in 3 main points. First of all, thank you and congratulations indeed for this remarkable milestone, which is putting an end to 30 years of conflict and of suffering, and which is redefining the perspectives that millions of Congolese and of citizens of the greater Great Lakes region will have. The second point is stay committed, stay on board. We need the United States to make sure that this agreement holds and that you hold us accountable. And the third point is, if you stay on board, I think there are so many perspectives that we can transform our partnerships to, and that can usher in an era of prosperity, of growth, and of shared bilateral relationships that go well beyond the challenges that we've shared together, and that can at least or finally focus on the potential and of the wealth that we can share. So again, our heartfelt gratitude to you on my behalf, but more importantly, on behalf of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much.
Beautifully spoken, and I look forward to seeing your leader. They will, highly respected person, as you know, highly respected all over the world, but in Africa in particular. So sometime in July we'll do something, a big ceremony.
We look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And there has been many mediation, facilitation in the past, but none of them succeeded. And we believe that it's because of your leadership and your steadfast commitment to this process, with also a new approach of economic integration, regional economic integration, which is important to allow Rwanda and DRC working together, because this is a very rich region with cross-border trade, with minerals, with natural wealth. So with the US standing side by side with Rwanda and DRC, we believe that we will achieve a long-time peace. And we also believe that, as my colleague from DRC stated, it's important for the United States to stay committed, because today we signed, but now we need to implement what we have signed in order to open this new era you were talking about of prosperity, so that we can reap the economic dividend of peace. So for this economic integration framework to be implemented, it's important for the US to accompany the parties to implement what we have signed, because in the past we have signed so many agreements that were not implemented. And we are really, we believe that with your leadership, with the involvement of the United States administration, we will reach that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, this will happen, definitely. I can reach over. Do you want to just press them over to me? Let me have them. And I just wanted to give you each. These are your signed agreements. And we'll make sure that you follow through. We'll make sure you follow through. Yeah. We'll make sure that you follow through. Okay, that's for you. And we have one other thing that we're going to give, that we give to special people only. It's a coin.
Thank you.
And I hope you do that. I'm going to give you a second one for your leader.
Oh, thank you very much.
These are serious coins. You don't want to lose them. You'll be very. I think that your reporter from Africa should get one. What do you think? Is she allowed? I think yes. Are the reporters okay with it? Brian, yes? Darling, that's for you. Okay. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you,
And I heard you do a great job in covering everything. Thank you.
And Mr. President, we actually have the pictures that you took earlier
Oh,
with
let
the
me
foreign
see
ministers here already.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Let me see that.
They're in this folder right here, sir.
Okay, this one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, they look better than me. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's beautiful. That's very good. We have a good photographer. Beautiful. That's great. You better, I'll tell you, you better do the job here. We're going to come down. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So we'll put them in. That's for you.
I can do that.
That's for you.
This is for the Congo.
And what is it?
For the Congo.
Yes. Okay. Let's see, we have two of them, I think so. You wouldn't give us one, you would have made a big mistake. Isn't that nice? That's for you. That's for you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And you're all set, and this is for you. You're going to get this. Good. Might as well hold it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes.
No, not Canada. This isn't about Canada.
Why not? Why not
This
Canada,
is
by the way?
Why?
I mean,
because this is about a different subject.
But
right
you're
now.
ending all.
This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died. So don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
Mr. President, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. Now that your administration, and congratulations, has secured peace in Africa to a bloody, horrific war that's gone on for decades and no other president could do it, do you think the mainstream media will finally...
I love her, I'm telling you. But you're right, no other president could do it. They tried and they didn't even try, I actually don't think they tried. Do you think Biden tried? He didn't know he was alive.
Do you think the mainstream media will finally give you credit where credit is due?
No, the media will never give me credit. But the people give me credit. That's why I'm here. The people didn't give me. That's why we're here in a landslide. We got all 7 states. We won the popular vote. So the media won't give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's more important to me.
Mr. President, you're going to go down as a peacemaker. You're also going to go down with the president who had 0 border crossings in May. You secured the border most than anybody has ever done. But I don't know if you know this. You're on track right now to have the lowest murder rate in history in this country, and I think a lot largely go to the fact we closed down the border. But do you want to comment on that? You might go down as the lowest murder rate in U.S. history, President Trump.
I saw that the other day, and that's an honor. I mean, and that's really even better because, we've taken a lot of illegals into the country through the Biden administration that are murderers, 11,888 to be exact. And many of them are now gone. We got rid of them. They're back where they belong. But so it's a great honor. If you took that out, the numbers would be even better. They've created a lot of problems.
You Truth Socialed earlier about getting money to the air traffic controllers and the big, beautiful bill, which hopefully, praise God, we get this thing signed. What does that mean to that industry that have been suffering the last couple of years, probably a decade of being underfunding, and how that changed the safety of air travel?
Well, they've underfunded the airports for years, and I started the process of getting it completed in terms of the equipment necessary to land the planes, where the planes, like the helicopter accident with the plane, would have never happened if they had the right modern equipment. It would have been bells and whistles would have been going on all over the place. And I had that all set, but when I wasn't here, they totally dropped it. You had a terrible head of transportation. We have a very good one now, Sean Duffy. But you had Buttigieg, and he didn't know a damn thing. He'd ride to work on his bicycle. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He was terrible. So he totally dropped that. It was a project that should have happened, and I was all set. But we had a very sad experience with the voting, and so we didn't get to do that. But now I'm doing it, and we're going to have a great system. And it's funded partially by the bill. It's the initial funding is by the bill, and then it gets to be funded. The rest of it comes a little bit later as we build it out. But we're going to build out the best in the world. We have the best companies in the world. A couple of countries have very good systems. In fact, I noticed when I was landing, my pilot often would use the system of another country, and I said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "The United States system is so bad." So we have the best companies that do that in the world bidding. You have Raytheon, you have IBM, you have a lot of different companies bidding, and we'll get the best one, the best system, for the best price. And they're going to go to town and give us a system that will be better than any other system in the world, and you won't have planes bunking into each other at 35,000 feet.
On the subject of peace deals, how close are you and your administration to a deal in terms of Gaza ceasefire right now?
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza. He's asking about, and we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're in theory not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people. If you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now. But so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that just get one meal essentially, but. It's too bad. Other countries aren't helping out. Nobody's helping out. We're doing that because I think we have to on a humanitarian basis. Like this, We didn't have to get involved in Africa, but we did because we thought it was. I mean, I've been reading, like J.D. said, he's, you know, from much of his life, he's been just seeing this about this brutal war, and it actually got a lot of publicity because of the level of brutality. Right? It was nobody's ever seen anything like it, and to be involved in that, I mean, I consider this the most important of my conferences today. We just had a great Supreme Court victory today, and everybody would say that was big, but you know, we're talking about saving thousands and probably millions of lives here. This is more important than anything. So it's great, but we're working on Gaza, trying to get it taken care of. And again, you know, a lot of food has been sent there, and other countries throughout the world should be helping also.
And on another conflict that I know you've been working on, sir, is it true that you have reached out with a letter to North Korea's Kim Jong-un?
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens. But somebody saying there's a potential conflict, I think we'll work it out if there is. It wouldn't involve us, but again, we're very far away from a lot of these places that we're solving problems with. But I enjoy doing it, I like doing it, and it's the right thing to do, and we have an ability to get it done, so we're solving things that we didn't have a lot to do. Serbia, Kosovo, I told you, we solved a potential disaster. I can tell you that some of the countries that you're not going to hear about, but some countries that were ready to go to war with their neighbor are not going to go to war with their neighbor, and that's a great thing. We have a number of them. But I'm very happy about India and Pakistan because they actually have nuclear weapons. You know, when you talk about Iran, they were trying to get it, but India has nuclear weapons, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, high-level nuclear weapons both, and getting that solved was really great. We did it through trade, so it was a great thing.
Mr. President, when it comes to nuclear weapons, Mr. President, are you concerned that the Iranians may have some enriched uranium at Pickaxe Mountain?
The last thing they're thinking about right now is enriched uranium. They're not thinking about what they want to do is they want to get back to life, and they do want to meet me, and we'll do that quickly. We're going to do it quickly.
They said this morning that they don't want to meet with the U.S. Were they telling you something different in private?
They may say that to you. Don't you think they want to meet me? Don't you think we have sanctions on there that they can't do anything? Wouldn't you think that they want to meet me? I mean, they're not stupid people, but they went through a lot, and they suffered, and so did Israel. Israel suffered greatly. It was a nasty 12 days, and yeah. We'll see what happens.
Are you, Mr. President, are you considering sending Patriot missiles to Ukraine? Have you made up your mind about that yet?
Go ahead.
Mr. President, there are a few unanswered questions that remain in this deal. For example, will Rwandan on this conflict? For example, will Rwandan troops pull back from parts of the DR Congo, and also will the M23 rebel group be allowed to remain in parts of eastern DR Congo? Do you have any answer to those questions?
Well, let me ask you that question. You want to answer that one? It sounds like an interesting question for you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. In the agreement we signed, we have taken the concept of operation for the neutralization of the FDLR, which is a vicious genocidal movement, and the lifting of Rwandan defensive measures. So this was already signed last year in November, so we will implement it. This concept of operation to do both things, to neutralize this movement, which has been destabilizing Rwanda for many years, and to lift our defensive measures. As for the M23, in the agreement also, we have decided to rely on the Doha talks, because there are currently talks between the AFC M23 and the DRC government to have a peace deal also that will complement the Washington peace agreement. So both things are taken care of.
Thank you. Mr. President, will the United States be enforcing this agreement or taking a role
We'll
in
be
it?
working with them to get it enforced. They can enforce their own agreement, but we'll be putting a lot of pressure on to make sure it gets enforced. The two people in this room are very, very capable people, and they'll get it done. I think they'll get it done. They love their. One thing I learned very quickly is how much you love your country and you want to get it done. And they know it has to get done, otherwise bad things happen. But I think we're well beyond that. Other presidents should have done what I'm doing right now. They never did it. I don't think they ever tried. I don't think it's like they couldn't do it. I don't think they ever tried. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
On the president,
Mr. President, if I-
yes.
yes, thank you. Mr. President, can you share with us what can happen if one of the parts violate this peace agreement? Because we don't want war to come back to DRC.
I'd rather not say. I would just say that there are big penalties if they violate, and they're not going to. I don't think they will violate. I think they mean it, but we have very severe penalties, financial and otherwise. Okay.
Mr. President, we can circle back to your Truth Social post on Canada specifically. Why are you deciding to end trade talks with Canada, and what rate are you looking to set?
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. We hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult, and they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards, we have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today trying to copy Europe. They copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. So I said we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act. Okay?
Is there anything Canada can do to change your mind about this situation?
No, they put a tax on companies that were American companies that they shouldn't. Very severe tax. And I guess they could remove it. They will, but it doesn't matter to me. We have all the cards. We do a lot of business with Canada, but relatively little. They do most of their businesses with us. And when you have that circumstance, you treat people better. They've had farmers that are getting like 300, 400, 200% in tariffs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We have cases, you don't read this and the people don't report, but they charge us 400% on some dairy products. 400%. Nobody writes that. It's not fair to our farmers, and we've got to protect our farmers.
Mr. President,
you mentioned how much of a rate cut it would do to the interest on the debt. Earlier today, Director Pulte was on CNBC talking about how he suggested Powell should resign. Any comments on whether or not Powell should step down? I know you've been pretty critical.
I don't have a comment. I'd love him to resign if he wanted to. He's done a lousy job. Look, if you were there, you'd say, well, the United States is doing well. They have no inflation. And if they do get inflation in a year or two, we'll start raising the rates. We'll get rid of the inflation, and do other things. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. 19%, but I think it was much higher than that. Frankly, they say 19%. I think it's a lot higher than that. And we have almost no inflation now. We've done a great job in a short period of time. Energy prices are way down. Gasoline now is down to close to $2 in a lot of places. A couple of places I see it even broke. It's like $1.98 a gallon. We've done a great job on inflation and honestly, pretty much everything else. I think it's very sad the way people act. You have a guy in there that with the stroke of a pen could lower interest rates and save us hundreds of billions of dollars a year. But he's a stupid person. It's very interesting. I'm not sure if he doesn't understand it, because he should be able to understand it. It's sort of 101 economics, but I'm not sure of that. But think of it, with the stroke of a pen, he talks about costs. We can save $600 billion, maybe even, these are nice numbers for you, right? $900 billion, $950 billion by lowering interest rates. And it's really just more of a paper movement. It's not like you're not cutting anything, you're not cutting jobs. It's just interest rates. And we're number 40 or 44, number 45. Some places that you wouldn't believe that, I don't want to be disparaging, but they pay a lower interest rate than the United States of America. And without us, everything blows up. We sort of control the world in that sense. But we have a guy that's just a stubborn mule, and a stupid person that is making a big mistake. He's making a mistake, and it lasts for years because when you do the debt. Now, I've instructed my people not to do any debt beyond 9 months or so. Get this guy out, and whoever is in there will lower rates. If I don't, if I think somebody's going to keep the rates where they are or whatever, I'm not going to put them in. I'm going to put somebody that wants to cut rates. There are a lot of them out there. And I said this morning, a lot of the business shows today were saying, you know, Trump is right. He should be cutting rates. Think of it. We have a great country. We're making a lot of money. We're taking in billions of dollars in tariffs. We have $15 trillion of money that wants to be invested here, which is a record. In 2 months, it breaks any record that we've ever had for a whole year, and not even close. 15 trillion, and it's going to be much higher than that. That's after essentially 2 months, because, you know, we've been doing it for about 2 months, 2.5 months. $15 trillion breaks every record in the book. There's never been anything like this. We have factories moving in. We have car plants moving in. We have everyone wants to be part of the United States. And as I told you, and I say it to everybody, when I was in the Middle East, the King of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE, all great leaders. They have all great leaders. All three of them said, you got the hottest country in the world, and you did it in. At that time, I was there for 4 months because we got back a little while ago. But everybody says it, not only them. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The only thing is we have a Fed chairman that is, he doesn't get it. And you could have substantially low. Like if we cut him 2 points, would save more than 600, think of it, more than $600 billion just because you cut. But you can't go out to the market and say, well, we have a guy that's got us at 4% or 4.5%, and we want to pay 2% or 1%. I think we should be paying 1% right now. And we're paying more because we have a guy who's, you know, suffers from, I think, Trump derangement syndrome, if you want to know the truth. But he's not good for our country.
Mr. President, did you push for the president of UVA? Did you push for the president?
Not you.
A related question on banking. There have been reports, Mr. President, that your administration is considering issuing an executive order about debanking, which is the practice of banks denying services based on people's political beliefs or industries such as crypto, people involved in that. Would you be open or interested to sign such an executive order targeting debanking, and what might that look like?
Well, I think the debankers, I think that banks, I can tell you because I've been a victim myself, because of my politics, that big banks were very nasty to us. And I actually think it was Biden's people that told them to be, because the one group of people the banks are afraid of are the regulators. They are petrified of the regulators. And I've seen the biggest banker. I can tell you, you see him on television all the time. If a regulator walked into the room, he gets all nervous and crazy. They're afraid of the regulators. And if the Biden people order the banks to be virtually closed, they can do anything they want. The regulators control the banks. It's not the president of the bank. The president of the bank is far less important to a bank than a regulator. And a regulator can put that bank out of business, just like bad prosecutors are very dangerous. You know, we had a couple. I had deranged Jack Smith and some others. And we kicked their ass. But it was, you know, it's a tough kind of a situation. Prosecutors are very dangerous. A great prosecutor is an amazing asset for a country. But a corrupt prosecutor, a bad prosecutor is very bad. Well, the regulators are the same thing. And when they tell the regulator to go and make life impossible for big banks or little banks, they really control it. So there is a lot of debanking, and they call it debanking, call it a lot of different names. Essentially, they make it impossible to do business. And those people are very bad and very dangerous, and they shouldn't be doing it.
Mr. President, you told us that taxes, Mr. President, could you please explain how taxes would go up by 68% if the bill isn't passed? Where does that number come from?
Well, it comes from the fact that you have automatically the Trump cuts, which were the biggest cuts that we've ever had. Now, these cuts are even bigger. But from the last administration, we had the Trump cuts. It was a 5-year deal, and it comes due. When you add that to the cuts that you already have and other things, it amounts, according to what they tell me, about 68%. That would mean you'd have a tax so that you know that the tax cuts that they got, the biggest tax cuts in our history, would immediately go up to that level. And that alone is a big chunk of the 68%. And then you have the other taxes that would accumulate. And they say that you'd have about a 68% tax increase.
Sir, you said a moment ago that it won't work out very well for Europe on trade. Does that mean you want to cut off those negotiations as well and just tell them what they should
No,
be
well,
paying?
they've been very tough. The European Union was formed in order to take advantage of the United States on trade. That was why they were formed. And they're nasty. They're very nasty. We have a good relationship. I'm dealing with Ursula right now and the group. But it's a very tough situation. They have been unbelievably bad to us. If you look at past precedents, they've treated them very badly. They're being very nice to me because I get it. I know the system, and we have the cards. We have the cards far more than they do, and they have not treated us well. And they're coming to us right now. You know, I said I was going to put on a 50% tariff. As soon as I said that, I put it out on Truth. As soon as I said that, they came to the table. They didn't want to come to the table. My people were telling me, Scott was telling me, and the whole group was telling me that not a good situation. They want to tap it down the line. They don't want to really deal. So I said, we're going to put a 50% tariff on you. And Howard, as you know, was very much involved, Lutnick, Commerce, and he said they don't want to talk. As soon as I put that on, I was getting calls from them like, can we meet tomorrow? And the problem is they have a lot of very unfair taxes. They have a lot of taxes that you wouldn't put on, and they sue all our companies. They're constantly suing Apple and Google and all of these companies, and getting in front of judges that essentially almost work for them. I guess they do work for them. They're European Union judges, and they're getting these crazy rewards. Apple was fined $17 billion, and others are being fined tremendous numbers of dollars. They're nasty people, and I don't want them affecting U.S. companies. I don't want that. If anybody's going to affect a U.S. company, I want it to be us. And if they're going to have to pay a penalty or a fine, let it be to us. So they've done this for a long time, for years, but they're very nasty. The European Union is very nasty. There's no question. But they'll learn not to be so nasty very soon. They know that. They know it's coming.
Vladimir Putin reached out to you to help you with the Iran crisis.
Well, he made some nice statements today. Did you see the statement?
I saw the statement.
Very nice. Vladimir Putin made some very nice statements today. Look, he respects our country again. He didn't respect it a year ago, I can tell you right now. But Putin respects our country. And President Xi of China respects our country. And Kim Jong-un they respect our country again. We were not a country that was respected just a year ago. We had a president that was incompetent. We had bad people circulating around this desk, this beautiful Resolute desk. They had, I guess, evil intentions. You couldn't be that stupid. I mean, they had evil intentions. But the world respects our country again. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President.
The world respects this man, the United States. I mean, this guy, everything he said he was going to do, he's currently doing it. And this is why he won the election. He said, peace through strength. And that's what's going on right now. Everybody's coming together. NATO is paying more, increasing their defense budget. This is what it's all about. This is why he won the election. Now, of course, Trump has that effect. He has that effect on people where no matter what he does, because his aura is so large that people think it's trying to take or suck out the energy in the room. It's just who he is. It's been like this for a long time. He's been like this for a long time. Even when he was a real estate developer, he was the biggest in New York. So it's just God's grace on his life. You know, when God blesses you, no man can curse you. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Pavlich, along with Kennedy, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and Brian Kilmeade. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The Supreme Court laying the smackdown on rogue judges who think they know better than the 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump's agenda. the top court with a 6-3 decision that limits the use of nationwide injunctions. As you can see from this graphic, Trump is the MVP compared to other presidents when it comes to nationwide injunctions. 47 taking a victory lap in the briefing room and listing all the things he's now free to implement.
This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. We can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list.
But naturally, the liberal media and Democrats are melting down over the loss of their favorite tool to stop the Trump agenda.
This sounds like a giant win for the Trump administration and could likely trigger chaos now across the country.
There are two things that are resulting from this: chaos and confusion.
Reckless and unprecedented.
They have dealt a death blow to the rule of law.
Presidency is far more powerful than it was at 9:55 a.m. this morning.
And another key decision, the Supreme Court also ruling in favor of religious parents of different faith backgrounds who wanted to opt their children out of reading storybooks that go against their beliefs. President Trump hailing that as a major victory for parents.
It's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal. So it's wonderful. It's parental. And I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents.
All right, Jesse, chaos breaking out everywhere, according to the left, because of these rulings.
The Trump resistance is officially dead. This was the only thing that was slowing this down. It's no doubt a major body blow. All they have left are riots. The lawfare failed. These injunction maniacs failed. Weaponization failed. You can't be the party of lawyers. That's all they are. They're the party of lawyers. They're just going to have to start persuading people and legislating, what they're supposed to be doing. And they also, when they lose cases like this, they lose the moral high ground because their entire message has been this: that Donald Trump's a tyrant and he's trampling on the Constitution and he's destroying everyone's rights and he's breaking the law. But it turns out when these rulings come down, it's the left that are breaking the law as they oppose Donald Trump. So this clears the way for all the goodies that Donald Trump just listed. I'm mostly enjoying Amy Coney Barrett just bench slap Justice Jackson. In their brilliantly academic way, they're all calling her a nitwit. And we knew she was a nitwit because she couldn't define what a woman was. But they're basically saying you're not, in your dissents, grounding any of your arguments in case law. You're just making stuff up. And every other justice agrees that this woman is just not qualified. And you look back at the Biden legacy, he gave us Kamala Harris and he gave us Justice Jackson. And you got to look and say, wow, what a bad move.
And Kennedy, not only are they just making things up and not basing it on case law, they're also being hypocritical because Elena Kagan, who's a justice who didn't like this ruling, 2 years ago said you can't have a single district court judge stopping the agenda of a duly elected president across the country.
Yeah, and I wish it were a unanimous decision from the Supreme Court. And I don't like seeing these decisions fall along ideological lines because oftentimes, and it was, I believe it was Associate Justice Sotomayor who pointed out, they should be really careful because when there is a leftist president, he will issue an executive order on guns. That's actually something that kind of terrifies me. And I think they made a point about being very careful of executive orders trying to undo aspects of the Constitution when this president and other Republicans always run on originalism and adhering to the text of the Constitution as it was written, not as they interpret it now very subjectively. That's something that President Obama liked to do. That's something that Democrats are a little more fond of. And I think conservatives have to be very, very careful about that, because if this is the precedent that is set, then they'll just take every other aspect they don't like. You know, that Third Amendment, quartering soldiers. Watch out.
They're going to all be in your house.
We're gonna have some Navy fellas at your house here pretty soon, Jesse.
You have a very big grocery bill. You have a very big grocery bill. But Brian, a lot of the strategy from the Trump administration with these executive orders is to push these issues like birthright citizenship to the Supreme Court and to actually get some clarification on things like the 14th Amendment, for example. And as the president said today during his press briefing, he really feels like they can now move forward with his agenda that's been so impeded by these nationwide injunctions for the first 5 months of his second term.
And don't you think, Katie, they do have to go and start doing something, pass legislation?
Yeah.
Besides the president, when they get
Congress
done with the
should
big,
get
beautiful
involved,
bill,
too.
they should really actually do something. I thought it was interesting that out of the 64 injunctions that he's gotten in the first term, now 45 in the next, 92% were Democratic-appointed judges. So we're just cutting on ideological lines. Here's the thing. They could have done something almost as effective and said, can you stop picking the jurisdictions to bring the cases in and maybe make it a little bit more interesting? So if it's a Democratic judge, you bring your case to a city that will be sympathetic to your cause, and you stop the president in his tracks. It's going to be interesting because they're going to sign some more executive orders. They're going to give it to a district judge. That district judge, even though he hates Trump, will have to say, wait a second, the Supreme Court made a ruling, or is he going to say, I'm stopping it right here. I'll let this whole thing play out. So maybe it's still going to be delayed. Lastly, Amy Coney Barrett, who was called out by the president a short time ago by saying basically I picked the wrong person, she went after, as you mentioned, Jesse, went after Ketanji Brown. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. And she was on to say when judges issue injunctions to block policies like those the Trump administration is trying to implement, they can't apply the injunction to more than the parties involved. But Barrett said the type of order often is called nationwide injunction is judicial overreach. Yeah. Just pointing out the problem with her reasoning. So we'll see where this goes. I cannot wait for birthright citizenship September to come front and center. Because if you argue this out from almost every level, it's being abused. Democrats should also not want to see it be abused.
Well, the fact that the majority opinion had that line in there from Amy Coney Barrett, then they all didn't take it out, it says a lot about the way they're feeling about their fellow justice. But Jessica, politically, where do Democrats go from here? I mean, a lot of their strategy was to use the court system to get these injunctions, and now that tool has been taken away from them.
Well, it hasn't been taken away from them because we're already back in court, and federal court in Maryland, and the plaintiffs there had their suit ready to go. They knew exactly what was going to happen, and actually the majority opinion cleared the way for people to do this as class action. It won't have the same name, it won't be nationwide injunction, but it'll have the same ramifications. So Democrats, the party of lawyers, ready to go, suited up, sent up the bat signal. At best, this is a compromise position. So we should be clear that the executive order, the protection for specific plaintiffs stays in place. So it's not like they're waking up tomorrow and they're going to get kicked out of the country. And again, then we have this class action approach. To the idea that it is Democrats that only use that, it's blatantly false. The reason that we don't have student debt forgiveness from President Biden is because the Republicans went and got a nationwide injunction. People like AG Ken Paxton in Texas, there's a judge in East Texas that he likes a lot that puts out injunctions for the entire nation, super right-wing guy. So let's not make this about partisan politics.
So it's good they clarified that it shouldn't be used for either party.
Well, what's good, I guess, is that they clarified that if you want to go and do this to protect people and give them their constitutional rights, and the 14th Amendment is pretty clear, that you do it as a class action suit, not an injunction in this way. But, you know, Trump, he takes a victory lap on absolutely everything that he does. It was to be expected. He loves the podium, spent an hour up there. But if you look at the example that's already being set, like I said, in Maryland, you're going to see this happening all over the country for every issue that he listed off, every 64 of them. I don't know about, you know, the law violence.
It would be just that case.
But
For example,
just
the Maryland case, it won't be a precedent for the whole country.
Right, but the class, the way that I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm very literate, is that that you don't have to have signatories. It can be an entire class of people. Obviously, it doesn't have to be everyone's name on it. So if they get a protection for a certain group of people, then that would be able to be quote unquote universal. So you will end up with universal injunctions. It will just go through the class action route.
Well, it'll be.
Okay. So everybody has their own opinions about this situation when it comes to birthright citizenship. But as a legal immigrant, I would say that there is no way you would just be here on tourist visa and you are pregnant and you have a kid and all of a sudden your kid is a United States citizen. Look, everybody has their opinion, as I said, So, and one thing I want to say is legal immigrant are the number one people who do not want illegal immigration. It's just the facts. Here we go.
Democrats keep claiming Trump is lying about obliterating Iran's nuclear facilities.
I just do not think the president was telling the truth when he said this program was obliterated.
Trump said that the nuclear stockpile was completely and totally obliterated. I did not receive an adequate answer to that question.
The administration has done a tremendous disservice to itself and to our military men and women by claiming that the job is all done.
President Trump is deliberately misleading the country about the results of the military action he took.
Right. So what a shocker. Those three do not think positive things about the president and his military operation. So President Trump had no choice but to drop a bunker buster on the doubters.
It's been obliterated. It would be years before they could ever get going. But I don't believe that they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear and they never got it together.
If the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely. They're exhausted. And Israel's exhausted too. And I dealt with both of them. And they both wanted it settled. The last thing they're thinking about right now is nuclear.
Well, he wasn't done yet. President Trump later posted a lengthy truth lashing out at the Supreme Leader Khomeini for claiming Iran won the war with Israel. Trump says he wouldn't let Israel terminate his life. Quote, this, I saved him from a very ugly and ignominious death. And he does not have to say, thank you, President Trump. So it's true. The Israelis knew exactly where he was. They did not kill him, but they were not afraid to kill him after they took out Nasrallah, and nothing really happened except for Lebanon went back to the Lebanese. I thought it was very telling, Jesse, when Bernie Moreno said last night to Laura Ingraham, one of the Democrats in that montage we just said, we actually have that soundbite? Like, since I can't do my Bernie Moreno imitation, here is what he sounded like saying the exact same thing.
One of the Democrats that you just had on your program was in the confidential briefing in the SCIF today and said to General Kane, the operation that you ran will go down in the annals of American history as the greatest military operation ever conducted. A Democrat said that today. What's sick, Laura, is that they then go on TV and do everything possible politically to undermine the administration. This is not what they believe. This is just pure political grotesque behavior.
Well, who's telling the truth, Bernie Moreno, about what they were like behind closed doors, or those three in front of the cameras?
Is it annals or annals?
Annals.
Is it annals? I think it's annals.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so you guys go in there, Jessica, and you did this during Russiagate. You go in and you get briefed on classified info, and you go out and you lie about it. I mean, why do we even trust you guys? You guys shouldn't even be briefed. You should just take a year and just chill. And we'll brief other people, because you can't be trusted with classified information. It's almost like common sense, Brian. When's the last time an American bomb didn't work? Nam? I mean, how many dud bombs have we ever dropped? And these things are so accurate. We perfected the smart bomb in the Desert Storm. It's not like we're not going to hit what we want to hit. And these things went all the way down this air shaft and exploded 6 times in the middle of this cavern. The whole thing's a fire pit. You can't know 100% what happened inside because you can't get inside.
Yeah, 46 years we've been trying the talking route. It has not worked out well. So now they've at least set back significantly, maybe forever, Katie, the nuclear program. Everyone should agree on that. And the one thing I think Democrats are missing out on is that they deserve credit. During this whole mission started in 2009 to find a way to blow up their program should they get the call from a president. Now you go from Bush to Obama to Biden to Trump to Trump to Biden, now back to Trump. And he goes, you know what? I'm done talking. I'm going to take it out. If I'm Senator Murphy, I say, look, we had that option. I think a few presidents had that option. They worked on it together, just like the bin Laden raid. Every other administration deserved credit along with President Obama.
It's an American mission.
That's what it was.
For the vast majority, Democrats, Republicans, have always said Iran can't get a nuclear weapon. So just give Trump the win. Why do you have to go
or the
be
military
political about
win?
it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Military.
They have to be political about it because they just can't give the president the win. I keep thinking about the stories that came out right before this happened. Maybe the bunker buster bombs won't work. Maybe B-2s aren't enough. Maybe Trump should use a tactical nuke. Can you imagine if he had used a tactical nuke, the criticism he would have received from Democrats as well, that it was overkill because he wanted to make sure that everything was destroyed and there was no question about that. And then he took this route and still, there's this leak, which everybody, if you care about making sure that these things don't damage American sources, American intelligence, that the leaks don't happen prematurely. We all want information. We all want to know what happened. We want to know if the job was done. There's still maybe more work to do. But this idea that you would send out half-truths about the information and imply that that the mission was not complete is pretty low even when it comes to politics.
I think the Middle East is about to be made over. Jessica, you've been firmly in Israel's court throughout this entire 2.5 years since October 7th. But I would say also it's going to be very interesting to see who leaked the DIA, because the DIA is the same group that said Ukraine would last 2 days. They said Ukraine can't withstand an invasion. They'll be done in 2 days. Kyiv will fall. And now we find out with low confidence that they think we only set back their program 2 to 3 months. And I just think that if it is a Democrat that leaked it, I think it's just as guilty the DIA person who feels as though they could just go work the lawmakers to make sure that, I guess, Trump and the military don't feel like they won on Sunday night.
Well, I take issue with the fact that we seem to over and over again treat our intel officers as if they're not part of the United States government and that they're not our warriors of a different kind. They're not the ones going out there dropping the bombs, but they are the ones collecting enough intelligence to make sure that we can do that effectively.
But would you say they diminish themselves when they pick up the phone and call a reporter?
None of us know exactly how this happened, so we should wait to find out. I think that leaks can be incredibly dangerous. I think that the pilots that did this, that dreamed about this for 15 years and have trained with pinpoint precision to be able to pull this off, deserve all the credit in the world. But I also don't think that it diminishes what they accomplished to ask questions like, where are the 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium? And you notice a theme from the Republican senators and congresspeople coming out of these private briefings. Senator Cotton, for instance, Mike McCall in the House, for instance, they keep just separating and say, well, that wasn't the point of the mission. Wasn't the point of the mission to deal with the fact that they got the uranium out, probably because the president was signaling on social media that this was going to happen and that we don't know where it is. And I think that's why people like Senator Murphy are saying, how far does this actually set it back? Maybe only a few months if they're walking around with it in uranium that is at 60% enriched.
They can't do anything with it, Jessica,
they also can't
because all their sites are destroyed.
Okay,
And Kennedy, can I just go to you? The foreign minister came out of Iran, who I think is pulling for Iran for total victory, said, admitted in an interview that the U.S. strikes caused serious damage to Tehran's nuclear facilities. He reiterated it, and it went directly against with the Grand Ayatollah.
Yeah.
And can you imagine Ayatollah that wasn't grand? Came out and said, it was no big deal.
I haven't been to Iran. I haven't met the Ayatollah. I cannot comment on his grandness
And I won't
at this time.
And I will not back you into a corner.
I just don't have the information.
Right.
Maybe Chris Murphy does. Maybe Chris Murphy knows how grand
He
the
knows
Ayatollah
everything.
is. But yeah, the foreign minister comes out, and obviously the United States wants to get Iran back to the table. They said they want to do it without a third party, no mediation. They want Iran to come to the table.
No more notes.
No more notes, no more help. Too many notes. But the foreign minister came out and said, yeah, it's decimated. He sounded like Pete Hegseth.
Exactly.
He was like,
Pete called him and said, calm down. Take it down.
A pilot. No, he was like, you're plagiarizing me. All right, knock it off.
I'm going to sue.
Yeah, I'll sue you.
It's a very
I'll go
everyone
to
sues us
Qatar
these
and
days.
sue you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But it's like I do take issue with lawmakers who go into these confidential classified briefings and come out and even, it's like they do this fruity little tap dance where they come out in front of the cameras and they make all of these implications. We saw Adam Schiff do that, like, whoa, you won't believe the information that I've got.
I'm making it up.
He was totally making it up. It was an absolute falsehood because they don't have the means for verification that they're claiming that they have. And a lot of this is spitballing. The Iranians don't know what exactly is happening. And yes, there are lawmakers who are like, well, that wasn't the point of the strike. They had 25 minutes in Iranian airspace, and so they went after the 3 nuclear sites. They didn't have 2.5 days to go, is that the uranium? Are those the trucks? Is that the 900 pounds? And so, yes, that wasn't on the target list. I hope to God this is the only thing we have to do. But between Van Hollen and Murphy and Dick Durbin and Denang Dick, like all the dicks, they're all asking for more bombs, which seems very odd given the past position of the Democrat Party.
It's crazy, but it's an exciting time. If we get the Gaza thing done, there might be a chance at a Middle East that tries to be productive instead of be destructive. I feel like.
And that should be everybody's conversation about the Middle East. It should be a productive Middle East, not chaos and war and all of this turmoil they've been through for years and years and years. I feel like the Iranian people, there are about 90 million of them. I feel like they deserve a better leader who is not, some sort of a police state where people cannot say what they want to say. I mean, if you come out and disagree with what they're doing, it ain't going to be pretty for you. So I truly believe that Iran deserves a better, a better leader, a leader who puts the 90 million people first and realize that you cannot, fight and keep fighting for a lost cause. Or even if you believe you're fighting for something tangible, you should also understand that what is the future if you keep fighting for what you've been fighting for 40 years, 30 years? What if you become a diplomat and actually, find diplomacy in all of these things? Figure out how you have oil, like Iran has oil. They could literally come to the table with the biggest nations like the United States, Europe, any country, okay, any country. But I'm just tired of seeing war and war and war, man. War.
Donald Trump's best week ever just got even better. A big win at the Supreme Court and a big loss for rogue liberal judges. Small ball district judges are no longer allowed to stop the president's agenda. Liberal lawyers can't sue every time Trump acts and get an Obama-Biden judge to issue a nationwide injunction. The ruling was 6-3. Trump stopped by the briefing room to take a victory lap.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law. It gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency. And it only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't take power. It takes bad power, sick power, and unfair power. And it's really going to be, this is a very monumental decision.
Bondi was there, and she said the nation just got a lot safer.
You should all feel safer now that President Trump can deport all of these gangs, and not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers and why the people of the United States elected him.
Among other things, rogue judges were stopping Trump from eliminating birthright citizenship. So after this ruling, birthright citizenship is getting fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. Justices hear the case in October.
Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
Lawfare is officially dead. Frivolous lawsuits were the only thing slowing down the Trump agenda. With Democrats out of power, radical lawyers were the only resistance. Finally, a random judge in Maryland isn't more powerful than the President of the United States.
This is a big win for President Trump.
Such a big win for the Trump administration. And not just Donald John Trump, the person, but the office of the president. Whoever comes next is going to get the benefit of this ruling, too.
DOGE cuts, so-called anchor babies, sanctuary cities, banning child sex change surgeries, all get free and fair hearings at the Supreme Court immediately. The Supreme Court just admitted Trump wasn't abusing his power. Out-of-control judges were. They lost the case and the moral high ground. More good news for America. The stock market just hit an all-time high today. Sorry, Panikins. And top economists are confessing that Trump was right about tariffs.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
It didn't end there. Gas prices just hit 4-year lows right before summer. So cheap that Congress can drive to work next week to watch Trump sign his big, beautiful bill.
Everyone working together, Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, with President Trump's assistants, have been able to move narrow majorities forward. And I think we're going to be able to bring this home. The president will be signing the bill on July 4th.
You know what goes well with beer, barbecue, and fireworks? No tax on tips. Trump isn't even taking credit for it. He's giving it to a beautiful waitress.
I will never say good-looking waitress because looks don't matter anymore, you know, in our modern society. She happened to be beautiful, but I won't say that. I won't mention that. But nevertheless, a waitress came over, and I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Not good, sir." "Why?" "The government is killing me on tips." And she looked at me, she said, "Sir, there should be no tax on tips." I said, "Say it again." "There should be no tax on tips." I said, "That's the coolest thing I've ever heard."
Now, the media wouldn't let him leave. Donald Trump was in the briefing room for an hour. That's more time in one day than Biden was in the briefing room his whole term.
By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it.
He didn't stop there. Today, he signed another peace deal, this time in Africa. Rwanda and the Congo came to the White House to end their 30-year war. The peace treaty was brokered by Trump and Rubio, and the Africans say Biden just hung up the phones on them.
Many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I cover President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country.
Right.
They never gave me any answer.
I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect. She said, "She's beautiful and you are beautiful." I'm not allowed to say that, you know, that could be the end of my political career, but I said it anyway. But you are beautiful and you're beautiful inside.
Soon, Africa will be calling him daddy, too. Of course, Trump got a little something from the deal, the M word.
Was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to. Look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House.
It was a historic day at the White House. But Canada was in the room, and they tried to make it all about themselves.
Not Canada. This is about Canada.
Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why?
I mean,
because this is about a different subject right now. This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died. So don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
The only way Canada can get our attention, 51st state, or we can't hear you. We're too busy doing deals.
We've had a big week. You know, we've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous, look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And, I want to give credit to a lot of people, and most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them.
You know who isn't having a big week? The Ayatollah. He's hiding in his cave, and he's lying through his teeth.
I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in his country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were, now has been proven. They hit it right down in the spot, 52,000 feet. Think of this dark, no moon, you couldn't see a thing. And they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target, and overwhelmingly. And it's amazing what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it.
Donald Trump says he's the only thing keeping the Ayatollah alive. Quote, I wish the leadership of Iran would realize that you often get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Peace. Democrats are singing the same tune as the Ayatollah. They say our bombs don't work, and they don't say thank you.
They're just finding something to attack them. I mean, that's it. There is no position. There is no goal. There is no set of ideas. It is just, what can we find a way to attack Trump? How can we say that he's a failure, or what he did is not a success? Or I just, at this point, kind of, you start to lose credibility when on every single instance, you're just saying, nope, not good. Nope, not good. Nope, not good.
Trump gave a beautiful waitress credit for no tax on tips. Why can't Democrats give him credit for the Iranian hit? The party split. Some are calling the president a war criminal, and others are calling him an American hero.
I don't agree with the president of the United States. Do not, on many, many issues. But you have to admire that when the United States says all options are on the table, he just proved all options are on the table. And China and Russia and even North Korea have to step back, because that has a level of deterrence. So the blast radius of this goes much farther.
Democrats have to face the music. There's only one commander-in-chief, and he conducted quite a week. Click here to subscribe. But now CCOT's got competition. Alligator Alcatraz. DeSantis is launching the detention center with swamp security. They had an open house this morning. Watch.
I mean, this is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed, there'll be places for them to be housed, you'll have an ability for food, you'll have an ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facility. And by Tuesday, this will be able to have intake of illegals.
Jose better not bust out a Croc Rock. If he does, he better bring his flippers, because ice skaters are lurking.
This is as secure as it gets. I mean, if a criminal alien were to escape from here somehow, and I don't think they will, you've got nowhere to go. I mean, what are you going to do? Trudge through the swamp and dodge alligators on the way back to 50, 60 miles just to get to civilization? Not going to happen.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem joins me now. Okay, Secretary, we had a little problem with some criminal migrants.
Everyone is sleeping on Ron DeSantis because he, most Make America Great Again supporters, who most people would say MAGA, they're saying that Ron DeSantis went against Donald Trump. But the fact is, it is politics, okay? You disagree to agree. You have to, sort of kind of sometimes, sometimes, all right, sometimes you have to be the bad guy, all right? So Ron DeSantis running against President Trump, I don't see anything bad in it. It's just politics. But a lot of people are sleeping on Ron DeSantis. Everybody's just talking about J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. Okay, that's what I call him. But his name is Marco Rubio. Excellent communicator, extremely skillful with his words. But I also think Ron DeSantis is a formidable and also tested candidate. He's been tested in Florida and has done a great job. So I'll say let the results speak for themselves. He's done a great job, and I think he deserves a shot in 2028 or maybe 2032. Who knows?
It's up in New Jersey. They broke out of a detention center. Was the idea to put it near a swamp so it was more secure and you didn't really have to have the taxpayers pay extra for security?
Well, ever since President Trump came into office, he encouraged us to build relationships with governors and with local law enforcement to go out there and help us with these enforcement activities. So we've been doing that on arrests and detainments. And now this is absolutely fantastic. This first idea came to us from the Attorney General of Florida, who approached us with the idea. Governor DeSantis is following through on it. I think it's absolutely perfect because this is a state that is stepping up. And I have recently gone to the Republican Governors Association and gone and talked to all the governors in this country about how they can help us more get criminals off of our streets. And Florida is helping us out with detention beds and helping us get people that we have detained in a situation to where they can get on a flight and get out of this country. And listen, Jesse, by you calling these guys bad hombres, they really are. I was talking to a U.S. Marshal just yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that they were deporting a plane load of illegals, and one of them was a cannibal. And he kind of said it offhanded. And I said to him, what do you mean it was a cannibal? And he said, well, we put him on the plane, put him in his seat, and he started to eat his own arms. He was such a deranged individual. This is the kind of people that President Trump is getting off of our streets, people who are murderers and rapists and are deranged individuals that we are working to get out of this country as fast as possible. So Alligator Alcatraz is the future. This is states who are stepping up and helping us solve this problem of making sure that when we arrest these people, they have somewhere to go to be processed so that we can get them out of this country and face the consequences for their crimes.
Secretary, was this bad hombre like handcuffed to something and he was trying to chew his arm off so he could escape? Or was he just hungry?
You know, what bothered me the most was that this U.S. Marshal just said it like it was normal. These are the kind of people they have to work with every single day when they're deporting people out of this country. So they had him, put him on the plane and had him in shackles for the flight because he was such a dangerous individual. And when he got back to his seat and put another individual in the seat close to him, he said he literally was eating his own arms. That for him, that is what he did. He called himself a cannibal, ate other people, and ate himself that day. Well, they had to take him off of the flight and get him medical attention, and then he went back into the system. But they have what our law enforcement do, what our ICE officers and Border Patrol, these marshals, what they do is God's work. It really is. They are bringing our communities much more safety. And I'll be down at Alligator Alcatraz here in just a couple of days when it opens. I'll be there to see the first people processed, and I'm looking forward to it because this is what we need. The federal government and the same old contractors and the same old people who've always done this job for years and years isn't always the answer. The taxpayers deserve to have a partnership that's responsive to people, that's affordable, that does it to a very high standard. And that is exactly what Florida is doing here.
All right. Well, we look forward to you breaking ground on this facility. And maybe the president was right when he was saying they're opening up the insane asylums and sending them across the border. I think this proves that. I think the media should listen up to your story.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. It is currently 11:43 a.m. And of course, today's date is the 28th of June, 2025. Look, I just want to say this coming from an actual immigrant who came here legally. Okay, I went through Homeland Security. I went through USCIS. It took me about 5 to 6 years to become a United States citizen. And so far, so good. I am glad. I am happy. I feel fulfilled for coming into the United States through the right process and, doing the right things to become a United States citizen. That has been one of the greatest, if not the greatest, um, thing in my life that I've done, like just being a United States citizen. People take it for granted, because you were born here. You don't really know what you have. So, look, the United States ain't the greatest country. Okay, great. If you go live outside the United States and see how people are living, I'm not saying there are no great countries, but I'm saying the greatest is the United States, okay? Of course, Japan is beautiful. You could go live in Japan. You could go live in Italy. You could go live in Greece. So many beautiful countries. But you would come back to the United States because the opportunity here is unmatched, okay? So, God is the greatest. Thank you to everybody here. Thank you to Corey B. I see you. Thank you, the moderator. Absolutely amazing. I'm surprised nobody got blocked from Corey B. All right. So shout out to the GOAT, the esteemed member, Dr. Luke, the GOAT. God bless you for being here. I don't know if he's still here, but God bless you, Dr. Luke. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Ringmaster. Shout out to Sandra. God bless you. And of course, the other moderators, C. Shelley, Terry Vinings from Bama, Mr. Busky, the Bucket Master. Everybody, thank you for being here, man. If you're here, if you love the United States, if you understand and cherish the idea of this land, the land of the free, home of the brave, then I love you as well. Okay, thank you for being here. God bless you. All right, so instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself, never give up on your dreams, never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in Almighty God. God is the greatest, okay? And the United States is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Thank God. Okay, thank God for that. Also, fathers, take care of your kids, okay? It's weekend, okay? It's the weekend. Some fathers work on the weekend, but I'm just saying, like, it's the weekend. Generally, you are off. So take time out when you get some rest. Take time out to take care of your kids. Take them to the park. Give them a big hug. Kiss them. Let them know you love them so much. Fathers, okay, I know you work hard, extra hours just to make sure the family is good. And for those, summer vacation, if you take summer vacation or whatnot, I'm just saying, like, thank you, fathers, for your hard work, but also take time out to take care of your kids and log in the hours in their life. Talk to them, embrace them, and let them know that they're special to you, okay? And shout out to the mothers as well. Mothers have been doing great jobs for years, ages. So shout out to the mothers, the legendary mothers. And I want to say thank you to the military personnel. Thank you to the veterans. Without you guys, there would be no homeland. So thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And shout out to the law enforcement officers. God bless you for protecting the citizens here. And shout out to ICE, baby. ICE, baby. ICE doing their jobs. And, for everybody here, it is just right for us to support the federal agents doing their jobs, okay? Sometimes it might be for your own benefit, but you might not see it right now. So just support the federal agent doing their jobs. With that being said, God is the greatest. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Well, if you haven't liked yet, maybe you're too late. So on your way out, double tap your screen. And if you haven't subscribed, turn on your notification bell because we are here almost every day. Okay. If not every day. So turn on your notification bell so you can get the alert. Okay. God bless you guys. And I'll see you soon. It is your boy Genesis, and this is the Genesis Show. And I am signing out.